Hey guys, it's John. I'm playing a blindfold game against a human opponent this time, rated 18-15. Let's see how it goes. So we've got a King's Indian. What should I do against this line? Let's play the Samish. I'm well versed in the Samish. It's one of my main weapons against a King's Indian. I set the time control at 1510, and I searched for an opponent in the 1750 to 2000 standard range on chess.com. Got to work my way up to Computer 4 Impossible. That's like the final boss in the video game. So once I get some confidence playing players in that rating range, I think I'll give it another crack. Try to take down that beast. Spending a little time after f3. Most everyone castles in this position for black. So given the time control, this will probably be a longer video than normal. We'll see how it goes. I might do a quick analysis, I might do a long analysis. If I make some horrendous blunder, I might just end the video in frustration. But no, even if I do that, you guys will see the video. I wonder why he's thinking for so long. If he's played the King's Indian for any length of time, for sure he's ran into this opening. But you never know what people are thinking about in the opening. The only other move you see here, instead of castling, is sometimes you'll see c6 or a6. Wow, he played e5. So that gives me the option of going immediately into an endgame if I want. So just taking on e5 and then trading queens on d8. Given that it's a blindfold game, I'm tempted to do that. And also I think that's a pretty good endgame for me. The only thing that would make me not want to do that is the fact that he hasn't committed his queenside knight yet. So if I trade on e5 and then trade queens, he takes with his king. Yeah, his king is in the center, and there's quite a few pieces on the board yet. It's kind of a queenless middle game, but I think he can quickly try to go c6 and bring the king to c7. So that's what makes me hesitant to do something to take it into an immediate endgame. However, I'm going to play knight ge2. And if he castles short, I will then take on e5. That's a position I'm familiar with. I've played before. So I think for him at this position, he should probably play knight c6 or maybe directly capture on d4. If he directly captures on d4, I take with my knight. I think we're bound to get into a position that could actually be reached from the classical King's Indian, which is knight f3 on move 5. If he plays knight c6, that would be interesting. Because then I have a couple ways I can play it. I could play d5 or I could play bishop e3. I haven't made up my mind what I would do in that case. So he played pawn c6 now. Yep, I still don't want to trade on e5 for exactly the same reason. He seems to be very aware that c7 is a good square for his king. just going to play queen d2. I think this position's already pretty easy to play for white. Not that what he's doing is terrible, but it's unorthodox. I'll probably be castling queenside at this point. I've already cleared out everything there, so I'm good to go castling queenside. I would probably play knight bd7 if I were him. He could castle short, but yeah, he does play knight bd7. That gives him flexibility. I'm just going to castle long. Oh, wait. Why can't I castle long? What is going on? Oh. I put my queen on d2 and my bishop is still on c1. Oh, man. I totally thought my bishop was on e3 already. Oh, gross. Well, what am I going to do now? I have to waste the tempo moving my queen or play it as it is. Oh, embarrassing. Super embarrassing. I'm going to try to play it off like I actually saw that I couldn't castle queenside. New plan. I'm going to go b3 and put my bishop on either b2 or a3. I grabbed for the king and tried to castle, and it wasn't letting me. In some ways, that's a typical blindfold error. Like, you know, I would never play queen d2 if I had sight of the board, but I had already jumped to the conclusion that I had played bishop e3, which is a totally standard move in this line, and that I was setting up a battery with my queen behind it. But nope, that was not the case at all. Well, maybe the side benefit of this is that I'm gaining some time. He's so baffled by my strategy with queen d2, the beginner's move, queen d2. He just doesn't know what's hitting him right now. I am concerned that I'm weakening this diagonal pretty severely. But, you know, I put my queen on d2 with my bishop on c1. I can't complain about it too much. The fact that I still have a playable position is good. This might not be so bad. There's a strong incentive to play bishop a3 because I would be hitting his pawn on d6, which is at present undefended. Yeah, like if he castles short, for instance, bishop a3, and I don't know what his best course of action would be then. Maybe capturing on d4. If he were to play queen c7 after that, so bishop a3, queen c7, I think I can take on e5. He's got troubles. Thing is, the dark square bishop is a really valuable piece for white in the samish. So you have to be judicious about whether you exchange it or not. Sometimes even black giving up an exchange is not a terrible idea for him. I've seen some games in the samish where black can do that and get a good position still, get plenty of compensation. Well, I built up a moderate time advantage already. Hopefully that will be the last like misplaced piece error that I make in this one. Can never know for sure when you're going to have a blindfold blow up, but okay, so he does castle. So now I can decide if I want to go bishop a3 or not. I think I will. Because it puts him to a difficult decision. And at the worst, I think it will just gain me a tempo. So I am going to play this move. Okay, he played knight e8. So just drop that piece back. He played that quickly too. Now, a dilemma I'm going to have now is how to get my light square bishop out. That's a serious question mark. What to do with that piece? Because with my knight on e2 defending the pawn on d4, there's no easy way to do that. So usually white will have to do something with the d-pawn before making that decision. So I could take on e5, but he's gearing up to take with the bishop. Somehow I don't like that position, but maybe it's best. Because I can take on e5, he takes with the bishop, and maybe then go knight d4. But does he have queen h4 check then? Yeah, he would. I could play d5 instead of capturing. But if I play d5, he can lock it up with c5. All things considered, though, that might not be a terrible idea for me. What about g3? g3 and bishop g2. And in that case, I'm probably headed for long castling. Or short castling, I mean. It would be okay. Yeah, I don't like the d5 move, so I think I will play g3. Yeah, let's do that. I have to be cautious about his dark square bishop. It's the one piece that could cause me a lot of damage. And I will continue trying to play quickly and build this time edge that I have. Because even in these 15-minute games, your clock can wind down so fast. There's a 10-second increment, though, so there shouldn't be any major mad time scramble at the end. Queen f6. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good move. So he's hitting d4 and f3 right now. I did miss that move. Good one. Good one. Here's where I really miss my bishop being on e3. miss it a lot. So what are my options? I can take on e5, but he takes with a knight. And then he's got 2 pieces bearing down on f3. Looks bad. I could play d5 and just pitch my g-pawn. That's also bad, but like I'm not going to get killed in the center. I could play bishop g2 and defend the f-pawn, but lose the d-pawn. Then after take, like play, I guess, knight d1 or something I'd be looking at. So there's that. None of these options look appetizing. I'm going to go with development. Yeah, let's just go bishop g2. We'll take on d4, I'll play knight d1. And he is up a solid pawn. It's a protected passed pawn too, but I think I might be able to cause some trouble. Yeah, he takes on d4. I'll bring this back. If he plays d3, I would have to play knight ec3, because otherwise he'd get my rook on a1. So we'll see how he treats it. Now that there's a pawn on d4, I think my bishop will be making a reappearance on this diagonal. I'll be back on b2, I think. I'm not above swindling him, if that's what it comes down to. So I've made 2 sloppy decisions already this game. Obviously the queen d2 move, and then not noticing queen f6 either. That was a harder one to notice. I'm not as unhappy about that one, but... I mean, the fact that my position was so loose after g3, that was a byproduct of having to put the bishop on a3. It's kind of a domino effect. I think he's played pretty well so far. Often I feel in these situations, I'm getting like an inherent time advantage because he's giving me a lot of respect since I'm an IM. So I imagine he's sitting there like wondering how he has such a great position against such a strong player. This guy, I give him credit, he's playing very well. Okay, I think I should just play bishop b2 now. Just be sensible and get this bishop back on a good square. Yeah. It's got nothing else to do on this diagonal, a3, f8. So he's got a real solidly entrenched pawn on d4 now. But, you know, I'm going to castle kingside, and I'm going to play knight f2, and maybe bring the knight to d3, and then maybe crawl forward with my pawns. I have no plans to win the pawn back, because I can't even do that if I wanted to. So I'm just going to focus on advancing my kingside and center pawns. He still has to complete his development, and his knight on e8 will need to be moved soon. I could aim for queenside castling if I wanted. So I may keep that option open. b6. Okay. Wait a second. What's to stop me from playing e5? with the bishop attacking a8. What am I missing? My bishop is most definitely standing on g2. Oh. Yeah, duh. Okay, my pawn is still on f3. Yeah, okay. So e5 is not a good plan. Again, I'm like getting ahead of myself in my head. Like I'm thinking I already have f4 in, which is a move I definitely want to play sometime soon. But I'm like jumping ahead and playing the move in my head before it actually appears on the board. So maybe I should go f4 now. And then if he goes bishop b7, which I think is his plan, then play knight f2. Or should I be craftier and castle first? Let's do that. Let's castle short first. I don't want to commit to anything. If he goes bishop b7, then I'll play knight f2, I think. Goes knight c7. Okay, what about f4 now? What about f4 now? Yeah, let's do it. Because now I'm actually threatening e5 for real. And if he goes bishop b7, I still play e5. Okay, so he bailed from the diagonal with rook b8. Knight f2 makes sense. Let's go knight f2. I have a feeling he's going to start playing quicker now. Kind of has to. He's under 5 minutes. Makes sense. Rook ae1 or knight d3. Knight d3, I would drop that pawn, wouldn't I? Let's go rook ae1. I think I have a solid picture in my head of where everything is. It's coming together. Like now I feel a sense of harmony with my position. Yes, I'm down a pawn still, but I can kind of sense where my pieces should be going and where his pieces are in relation to mine now. So queen back to d8, retreats. This knight is misplaced on e2. I mean, I have half a mind to just maneuver this one to d3. So go knight c1 and then put it on d3. Don't think it's such a bad idea. I don't want to break with my pawns or anything yet. e5 is out of the question right now. Yeah, so let's spend some tempos repositioning. d3 is an optimal square, like blockading his protected pass pawn. He can maybe start to strike back on the queen side, though, while I'm still getting organized on the king side. Like he could try to arrange b5. Because I do have the pawn on c4 only defended by the pawn on b3. So you could maybe a6 is a good move in this position. Even b5 might be possible for him. But I hope that he starts to defend rather than focus on his counterplay on the queen side. King h8. He's scared of something, or he's preparing something. Maybe he's preparing f5. Be the only thing I could think of. Regardless, let's go here as planned. Plays f6. Wow, he's digging in. Digging in for defense. What about h4 now? Yeah, I like to look at h4. We'll gain some space and potentially be able to play bishop h3. Maybe annoy his knight on d7. Wow, he changes his mind. Now f5. Okay. So if I take you, you're going to take me on g2. I take back, you take with your pawn. And probably a rook exchange. I really don't want him to like sink his knight into e4 after all is said and done here. I almost feel like it'd be better for me if he initiated the trade on e4. So maybe rook e2 is a decent move. I have e4 defended 1, 2, 3 times. He's attacking it 3 times. So if I play rook e2 and he goes knight f6, I can then swing my other rook over to e1. Right. It's either that or take on f5. But I really don't want him ending up with that pawn on e5, or on f5. I'd rather him take me. Okay, let's go rook e2. See how bad he wants to trade. It's going to be crunch time soon. All of the minor pieces are still on board, aren't they? It's a rather congested position. So he has knights on c7, d7, right? My knights are on d3, f2. My bishops are on b2, g2. His bishops are on b7, g7. My rook's on e2. This rook's on f1. He has rooks on b8, e8. I have my queen on d2. He has queen on d8. And pawn structure I think I got. I was just thinking if any minor pieces had been traded. I don't think that's the case. Queen f6. We're going back to f6 now. Well, I'm going to double up as planned. Maybe his idea is queen g6 or take and then queen g6. Kind of thinking that's what he's up to. It's getting intense. There's a lot of tension brewing in this position. And he doesn't have much time. But I know I can't count on a flag. I might be able to confuse him in time pressure, but I can't count on a flag. Oh! I was thinking his rook was on e8 the whole time. Oof, okay. That's another misplaced piece in my head. Rook e8. Tisk, tisk, John. Okay, I can take on f5. We're looking at trades, though. I could play... How do I improve my position, if not take on f5? Don't really know. I mean, I'm all geared up for some sort of central break. e5 or take. I mean, barely anything else is coming to mind. Yeah, I'm going to take on f5. Got to play reasonably fast, and I don't see much else. He took back. Wait a second. Something is not right. So if I take him on e8, isn't his rook on b8 overloaded? Because there's this bishop tension, right? What is going on? Okay, I'm going to take with check. Is he not just losing a piece? I know the bishops are opposed with each other on g2, b7. And I'm pretty darn sure his rook is on b8 protecting that bishop. It is. It has to be. So he can't take here because I win a piece. He does have a knight on c7 defending that rook. But, I mean, if I take, let's say he plays knight takes e8 now, I just take on b7, and again, the rook's overloaded. I think that checks out. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's not responding right away. Oh, well, he disconnected. kluli18 has disconnected. They have 5 minutes to reconnect. Oh, I hope he gets back on, because that would be a shame to just win this on time. But, I think I'm just winning a piece. I hope. Yeah, that would be a shame if I won on time. We were having a good game. Because I'm pretty certain his knights are on d7, c7. Looks like he's going to time out, unfortunately. Yeah, so I won on time. Lucky break. It's very too bad. Okay, I'm going to change my settings and go take a look at this. I'm not willing to stake my reputation on the fact that I'm winning a piece here, because I could very well be wrong. But according to what I see right now, I think I am. So, not like I haven't been wrong already this game, though. So let's change the setting back. Let's go classic. Save settings. I'm going to go to my archive. This is the game. We're going to analyze in live. Oh, look at that. I think I was right. All right, so here's our game. So, same-ish. F3. Yeah, and he played the immediate E5. I honestly have no clue about this move. I'm going to look this up after the game. Like I was saying, I think it's very tempting to just take and then trade queens. And there's a lot of situations in the same-ish and other lines of the kid where this is a good idea. But the only thing is, he gets c6 and he gets to put the king on c7. That's a great square for the king. And c6 is a great square to keep something out of d5. So that's why I don't think it's very good here. Otherwise, I would have gone for this, for sure. So I played knight ge2. He went c6. Yeah, here's where I made my boneheaded move. So, as I was explaining, the point is, like, very often white will just automatically play bishop e3 and then play queen d2 in this line. And in my head, I just assumed that I had already played bishop e3 for some reason. Can't explain it. That's my only explanation. So I had to roll with queen d2. And he went here. To be quite honest, I should probably move my queen somewhere, like c2, or maybe just back to d1, and then play bishop e3 again. But I wanted to see if I could make this unorthodox position work for me. Knight e8 and g3. Yeah, this was underestimating the queen f6 idea. I didn't see that coming. Not one bit. In fact, would it even be stronger for him to play this capture first and then go queen here? Maybe in that case I can play like rook d1, for instance. You can play c5, but it's not as clear. His way just wins a pawn clear. Queen f6. So bishop g2. Yeah, I suppose instead of g3, I should maybe play d5, which would allow him to lock it up. And then I'd have to move this bishop again. But this might be the best way to play it. So g3, he took on d4. Knight takes here. Oh, he played queen f6 first. Then bishop g2, so I just opted to give up the d4 pawn. Knight d1. And it's very important that if he plays d3, I can block with that knight. Bishop e2 I think is less accurate because he can take here. And then when I take his queen, he can take here, followed by taking here, and he gets 3 minor pieces for the queen. Generally in a middle game, 3 minors is preferable to a queen. Actually, in a lot of positions, the 3 minors is better than the queen. But especially here, where there's a lot of targets and a lot of play left. So c5 was played. Just brought the bishop back. It doesn't have anything to do on this diagonal once it's blocked by 2 pawns. He plays b6. Yeah, and here I had another hallucination for a second. I was seriously wondering why I couldn't just play e5. But that was leaping ahead in my head and figuring that I had already played f4. Because if the pawn was on f4, e5 would be possible, and I'd be hitting that rook. So visualization error in that one. So I castled. He played knight c7. Now I went f4. So now e5 is a threat. So therefore he got out of the way, rook b8. I went knight f2. Bishop here. Rook ae1. And I mentioned around here, this is where it started like actually coming together in my head, like the complete picture. Maybe just because I'm mobilized and this resembles a position that I'm familiar with, or a setup I'm familiar with. The only mistake I made now is I assumed this rook was on e8. For the next several moves, I keep assuming the rook is on e8. It's very interesting that I assume that. It seems like I'm making a lot of assumptions about moves that I think that should be played. And my brain is just not picking up fully that those moves have yet to be played. So it's an interesting problem to have. I'll have to work on that in future Blindfold games. Yeah, and here, I want to send one of my knights to d3 to blockade. And also, like, get out of the way of the e-file. And I think it's better to send this knight, because if I put this knight on d3, this knight is always going to be kind of unemployed. So I think it's more cohesive to play this and put this knight here. Leave this guy defending f2 and maybe retaining the option of jumping to g4 at some point. Long term, I would be looking to break in the center with some sort of like e5 or f5 move. It's really the only place I can play. Maybe on the king side too, but definitely not on the queen side. Nothing over here. King h8 really baffled me. I have no clue why he played that move. I really don't. Seems strange. Maybe he was afraid, like, since he did end up going f5 or f6 and then f5, maybe he's afraid of something on this diagonal is the only explanation I can think of. But knight here, and then he played f6. Yeah, this was interesting. And then I played h4. I like this move because I have some plans now, like maybe h5, or as mentioning, I put the bishop on h3. I could even go, now that I look at it, bishop f3, king g2, rook h1, and then go for h4 or h5. So I think this is a good move. The only thing is he switches plans and plays f5 now. Now I was mentioning how in this position I wanted to get him to take on e4 because I feel like if I take here, let's say he takes, I take with my king and he takes with the pawn, that pawn is really annoying. It makes this a backward pawn, and also he might be able to use it favorably with his knight. Like his knight comes to f6 and it provides a hook for him to get into either e4 or g4 is my concern. So I played rook e2, just trying to double up. He went queen f6, rook fe1, rook fe8. Yeah, and when he played that move, I realized, oh no, actually his rook has been on f8 the entire time. And now I took, and I thought he should play rook takes e2. So just trade immediately. And I was debating how I was going to continue from here, which way to take. I think I could actually take with the queen. Might not be a bad idea. Whoops. Queen takes e2. And then if bishop takes b7, let's say king takes. Just wondering if he can play rook e8. Probably can. Maybe queen here. And I saw some versions of this position where I might get my queen in to like c6 or b7, because it's going to cost him a tempo to recapture on f5 with this queen or pawn. So I might be able to invade. Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling this position after g takes f5 is not so bad anymore. Well, I don't know. Let's say he plays a better move, like the bishop takes g2 move now. Then probably I take... Yeah, he could just take with the pawn, I guess. Maybe he should just do that, like stand firm on the e-file. But I will take, and you know, if he liquidates everything, I think the key is activating my queen. Like if I can go queen e2 and then like slither my way into the queen side while he's somewhat caught offside on the king side, that might just work for me. Practical chances, at least. But yeah, right when he got disconnected, so he played g takes f5, that fateful move, and then I took. Yep, and I'm very glad to see. I mean, I don't see any reason to doubt what I was thinking in the game, but yeah, I'm just winning a piece here. Because, you know, if rook takes, obviously, his bishop is just hanging right away. So knight takes is basically forced. And now I just take on b7. And, you know, I'm going to be winning material. If he takes here, I take his knight. I guess he could play maybe like queen g6 or something, but I'm still merging up a piece after all that. Like bishop back to g2. Now he takes here. He gets some pawns for it, but compared to what I was working with earlier in this game, I would take this position in a heartbeat. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. So that was roughly against a 1800 player in Blindfold. And I'm working my way up to computer 4 Impossible. Need to get a few more wins, some more confidence, eliminating these like leaping ahead errors that I seem to be making. So hope to do better in future games. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later.